Now we'll start with the last stage of our character, which will be coloring. In order to obtain the color palette, we'll get it with the eyedropper from the photos we have as a reference. So I'll create a new layer for this in which I'll only place the colors. Let's say for everything in general, we'll start with a middle tone. What do I mean with this? It won't be the darkest or the lightest tone of the character, but it will be the neutral tone, so over it will make the lights and shadows. So for the skin tone, I won't reach this or this, but something in the middle. Let's say this. This will be the base color for the skin. Now for the jacket, this one here. For the hair, we'll take a very dark brown, almost black, there. The eyes are actually black. And the tie, like a navy blue. And for the shirt, this gray shade. Done. Now we'll start coloring. Below the line layer, which I named inking, I'll create a new layer for the color. How will we color? Well, a technique that happens to be faster to color is to first draw all the shape of the area we'll be coloring, and then fill it. Let's do it with the skin. The shortcut for the eyedropper is Alt, so I press Alt and click over the color, and it's selected. So we'll start with a medium-sized brush, and we'll contour it. For the next part of our character, I'll show you another coloring technique you can also use to color these parts. Done. Now that we have the contouring, pressing W, I select the magic wand tool. I click inside the shape I did, and you'll see before filling, when someone makes a selection by default, there's a distance of 1 empty pixel between the contouring and the selection. So to correct this and make the selection bigger, we go to the Select menu, Modify, Expand. We'll set it to about 3 pixels because the contouring we did is quite thick. Click OK and you'll see how the selection expands. So now when we fill using the shortcut Alt plus Delete, we fill the selection with the selected foreground color. Okay? It can happen that there's a small hole, so we paint this and I think everything else is okay. Okay, we have the skin. Let's go for the hair. Let's name the layers. Color skin. And a new layer, color hair. It's just so it's organized that I separate the layers when coloring, because when I make the lights and the shadows, it'll be easier. Now for the hair, we choose this color. I'll make it a bit darker because it feels too close to the brown color, so now what would be the other way of coloring fast? Instead of making all that contouring using the brush, we can select our inking layer and using the magic wand tool, remember the W key, I click inside and now I have a selection of that empty space where there is no information in the line layer. So we do the same. Select, modify, expand, and set it to 3. Now you select again the color layer you created. Careful with that because it's common to forget to change the layer and paint over the line layer. And here again, we use the Alt-Delete shortcut. And that's it with the hair. We'll always have to paint some pixels that are not detected by the tool, but it really speeds up our work. I'm using this quick technique because since it's an animated character, we don't need to make many strokes when coloring because we're not seeing something very realistic, but more cartoon. Now let's switch to a new layer for the clothes. I'll draw all the clothes together in a layer. I should draw here the edge, though there's no edge. We'll paint from here to up here. Now you're free to paint it however you like. If you like to paint and you want to do all the strokes, you're welcome to do so. And paint everything without expanding selection. Now select, modify, expand, and Alt plus Delete. Perfect, jacket done. Now with the shirt, we'll do the same. And we'll create a layer for the tie, because I want to separate it from the shirt so it'll be easier to select. Let's continue with the lips. Oh, we forgot to take a color for the lips in the color palette. So, well, let's rename the previous layer, tie. And let's select more or less. This one is good for the lips. Let's saturate it a bit more so it has a bit more color. A bit more reddish. That's fine. So with this and over the skin layer, we'll name it face, because I also want to paint the eyes colors there. So let's paint the lips. And the eye color. We're not going to select a complete white because I rather make the white be the light and make the eyes a dark gray. In some things we won't make lights and shadows, but maybe just lights, like for example in the eyes. We'll use dark brown for the pupil, and we'll leave the shine without any color. We can paint the shine white. Well, it looks a bit too bright. Let's keep painting with the base color and light it a bit. Now over these we could already set some shadows, some lights. So for these we'll use the blurred edges brush for the details. So lights and shadows. Let's go to the skin color layer. And while holding the control key, we click on the thumbnail in order to select all the non-transparent pixels in the layer. Okay, for example, if I switch to the face layer and control click the thumbnail, it selects every pixel that has color information on them. So over this layer, we're going to paint a bit take the color and bring it to a darker shade. So we'll make the shadow. For this, we have to consider where the light is coming from. So let's say the light is coming from the front and a bit elevated. So Control-click in the thumbnail, and we'll paint the nose bottom, especially because it's a sphere. So we have to give it like a quite spherical depth along the part that has contact with the lips. Over the eyes and under the eyebrows, because the eyebrows are casting a shadow, and you'll see how the character is acquiring volume. The nose is also casting a shadow over this zone, because we said it was a frontal light. Now I'll Alt+click to select the main color since I put too much shadow here, so I'll paint back with the original color, what I think it's not looking good. Now I'll put some shadow here. Notice that since I have the pixel information selected on that layer, I'm only painting where there's color information. In short, I'm not going over the line. Now the neck. Notice that here in this part of contact, there's a very marked shadow. We'll correct it a bit later when we use a darker shadow color. I'm darkening this part of the neck because it is lower and because all the head is casting its shadow over the neck. So a bit of shadow here inside the ear and along the hairline. I think we're done with it now. Let's not get into much detail because it's only a coloring in order to bring our character to life. It's not a final color. Done! With this, I think we have a basic lighting. While having the other color selected and the pan pressure option activated, we're going to paint the parts where the colors get together and blur it a bit more so the change of color is not that hard. Done. Now let's select a lighter color in order to put some more lights I want to add. Make it lighter. And let's start. We must definitely put some light on the character's nose because it's the brightest point. You know, look at the photos how his nose shines. On the ear. Over the lips. The chin. Forehead. His eyebrows. Let's open these way more so it's more blurred, and we'll only do light reflections. Remember, we don't want it to be too detailed or realistic. It's just to give our character some depth. On the ears and the nose, we'll just put some reddish tone, since you can notice a bit more the blood there. So we'll give it a touch of kind of blushing in the nose, a bit here and there. And that's it. That's enough. Now, a bit of light on the lips. Color like this. Let's make the brush smaller and And oh, I'm on the skin layer. Okay, let's select the right layer. Good. Now with the white color for the eyes. Without losing the gray. Now some more shadows again for the skin layer now. The bottom part. Only for the chin. A bit more under the eyebrows because it's a very dark zone. A bit more in here. Notice I'm only putting some more detail where the zones connect, where there are outstanding wrinkles and there's contact between face parts. Now notice there are some details that I didn't paint with the line and that it would be good to mark, like the bags under his eyes. So from the center of the face towards the part inside the eyes, I'll make a slight curve for the bags. And that's it with the skin. Now we'll go on with the clothes. Just like we've been doing, we'll select a darker shade, select the clothes layer, and notice here where the lapel makes contact with the jacket, there's a shadow, a very thin one between both parts. Great. Now in the back, the hair is casting shadow too, so a bit more. Now in the shirt, we'll add some light to it so the shirt has more depth. Let's select the white color so it works better. This way it feels like a fold in the shirt. We'll leave the tie as it is, and we'll cast some shadows at the bottom of the shirt. This one here, which is casting over itself. A bit also in the part where the jacket is over the shirt. And now the hair. Let's get a darker color for the hair. That's it. The low parts, the one that are neighboring the hairline, a bit of darkness. And the back, because remember that light is coming from the front top. So this way we finished our character Stanley. In the last video, we'll finish with Emma and the coloring stage.